It's myself, I'm R.BHUSHAN. Welcome to ASG IAS. ASG IAS believe in quality, commitment, and success. The unassailable keywords for the judiciary. The unassailable words for the judiciary. This article was written by Mr. Dusyant Dave in the Hindu newspaper. India's judges must remind themselves constantly of the need to uphold an independent, strong, and respected judiciary. Justice Arun Misra public praise for the Prime Minister at public forum on Saturday raised serious questions about the independence for the judiciary. What is more disturbing is that he was speaking at the inaugural session of the International Judiciary Conference in 2020. Judiciary and the changing world, the damage as a statement has caused incalculable. The international judiciary community must have been left aghast as far as the very independence of the Indian judiciary concerned. Judges across India must be left bewildered after wondering whether they should indulge in a similar praise or not. One cannot forget that Justice Misra is one of the senior-most judges of the Supreme Court of India, and every word is spoken by him may be taken as serious by close connected with the administration of justice. The Prime Minister himself applauded the Supreme Court by referring to some recent critical judgment, adding to 1.3 billion Indians wholeheartedly accepted the judicial verdict. The Prime Minister's claim certainly appears to be off the mark, considering that the large numbers have questions to these judgments. The Law Minister, who was also speaking at the inaugural session, himself took the opportunity to attack many of those who criticized the functioning of judiciary and its judgment. The executive and the judiciary appear to be in the tandem, something which was clearly not designated into the Constitution. Was the international conference a platform for this? Reiterating independence, 1981 judgment. The Constitution bench of Supreme Court held that judges should be stern, tough, and tough higher, unbending before power, economic and political, and they must uphold the core principle, the rule of law, which says, be you ever so high, the law is above you. Be you ever so high, the law is above you. This is the principle of independence of judiciary, which is vital for the establishment of the real participatory democracy, maintenance of the rule of law as a dynamic concept, and the delivery of the social justice to the vulnerable section of the community. It is this principle of independence of judiciary which we must keep in mind while interpreting the relevant provision of the Constitution. In the same judgment, another learned judge holds, while the administration of justice draws its legal sanction from the Constitution, its credibility rests in the faith of the people, indispensable to the faith that is independence of the judiciary. The framers of the Constitution took a great pain to ensure that an even better and more effective judicial structure was incorporated in the Constitution. One much in the Constitution, one which would meet the highest expectation of judicial independence. The structure seems to be crumbling under its own weight. Later in 1993, another constitutional bench in the second judge's appointment case declared it is obvious that only those persons should be considered fit for appointment as judges of the Supreme Court judiciary who combine the attributes essential for making an able, independent, and fearless judge. Several attributes together combine to constitute such a personality: legal expertise, ability to handle cases, proper personal conduct and ethical behavior, firmness and fearlessness are obvious essentially attributes of the person suitable for appointment as a superior judge. A standard of conduct. Among the several attributes that have been prescribed of a judge is a proper personal conduct. In case in 1995, C. Ravichandran Iyer versus Justice A.M. Bhattacharjee and ORS, the Supreme Court went to extent of the holding that for a judge, the standard of the conduct is higher than that expected of layman, and that therefore the judge can ill afford to seek shelter from the fallen standard in the society. It was also declared the judges of the higher echelons therefore should not be mere men of the clay with all the frailties of the foibles, human failings, and weak characters which may be found in those in other walks of life. There should be men of the fighting with tough fiber, not susceptible to any pressure, economic, political, or any sort. It concluded, in short, behavior of the judges is the passion of the people to reap the fruits of the democracy, liberty, and justice, and antithesis rocks the bottom of the rule of law. Ironically, Justice Misra himself in the judgment of the R. Muthukurishan versus Registrar of the General of the High Court of the Judicature at Madras observed judicial independence is a privilege and protections of the people. He holds. Francis Bacon has said that the judges ought to be more learned that witty, more reverent than plausible, and more advisable than confident. Above all these things, integrity is their portion and the proper virtue. The balancing of the values, reverence between the bar and the bench is the edifice of the independent judicial system. Time has come to restore the glory and cherish the time-tested, enduring ideas and the principle. He also says independent bar and independent bench from the backbone of the democracy. So why these remarks about the country's leader? Key judicial charter. So what can citizen make out of the completely avoidable public praise by which such a senior judge have those in the position of the responsibility and even others who have publicly praised the Prime Minister in the recent past have forgotten the charter called the resentment of the values of judicial life. This was adopted by the full court in 1997 to serve as a guide to be observed by the judges, which, according to the charter, was essential for an independent, strong, and respected judiciary, indispensable in the impartial administration of justice. The charter is a complete code of the canons of the judicial ethics and categorically declares, among many others, the like following values. 6. A judge should praise a degree of aloofness consistent with the dignity of his office. And 16. Every judge must all times the conscious that he is under public gauge, Every judge must all the time be conscious that he is under public gaze, and there should be no act or omission by him which is undercoming of the high office he occupies and the public esteem in which the office is held. To my mind, both stand violated now. In a Constituent Assembly debate, Professor Ketisa Bihar spoke of the dangers lying ahead on the 24th, 1949. In my opinion, sir, if I may so, with all respect, this Constitution concentrates so much power and influence in the hands of the Prime Minister as regard to the appointment of the judges, ambassadors, and governors, or to such an extent there is a danger to apprehend that the Prime Minister may become a dictator if he chooses to do so. I think there are cases which ought to be removed from the political influence of party maneuvers. And here is one case where a judge of the Supreme Court who I think should be completely outside that influence. He again said, I have been trying to be for the houses which are keeping the judiciary completely out of temptation and contact with the executive and the legislature side, whether during this his tenure of office or even on retirement. I would suggest that there should be a constitutional prohibitions against the employment any executive office, so that no temptation should be available a judge for the greater emoluments or the greater prestige which would in any way affect the independence as a judge. One thing is clear: the judiciary is fast eroding the hopes and the aspiration of great men and women who sat in the Constitution Assembly debating and giving us the great document and Constitution of India. Any correction, if at all, must come from within the judiciary. Will it? We, the citizen of India, can only sit back and watch, be bemused and deeply disappointed. So basically this article was written by Dushyant Dave, the senior advocate at the Supreme Court of India and president of the Supreme Court Bar Association. This is his personal opinion. Thank you so much.